Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest Communal Digital webinar, Power Apps Hotline, Build Smart and Intelligent Apps in 5 days. I am your host for today, and my name is Tushar. I work as Marketing Manager for Digital Transformation Solutions at Communal Digital. I am sure you would be curious to know how one can create applications in just 5 days. Seems pretty impossible, but before we dive into the webinar, let's cover a quick items. First, we'll be taking questions at the end of the webinar. Though we try to adjust all the questions, but in some case, if they are left out, we'll take that at the end or we'll get back to you. So without further delay, let's get started. Joining me today is Vishal Rustagi. Vishal is the Vice President of Digital Engineering, who holds decades of experience for digital transformation solutions. He has also helped organizations scale their digital maturity to drive enhanced operational efficiency. Thanks, Vishal, for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.
So, what is it that you are going to experience today, and how Power Apps helps you? Let's see. Building highly productive apps with a rich set of tools. Is that the need of your business today? Power Apps empower everyone to build apps, enable you to innovate, build highly tailored applications, and create sophisticated apps for your data. So we are going to cover a couple of items like why do you need low-code apps? What exactly do you mean by my Microsoft Power Platforms? How to create low-code apps in 5 days? I mean, that seems pretty impossible, but let's see how we can do that. We will also cover a couple of success stories, how Power Apps have driven business and help them enhance operational efficiency. And we'll also continue this conversation with a live demo. Certainly, you're going to take away a couple of things from this webinar. You can understand how to build smart applications on low-code platform. You'll also see how you can increase agility and reduce cost at the same time. It is possible to create professional-grade apps in just over 5 days. And we'll also see at the end a couple of POCs. So with that, I'll just hand over the stage to Vishal for further details.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar today. Myself is Vishal Rustagi, and as been mentioned by Tushar, that I'm a Vice President of Digital Solutions, so I help a lot of the organization to start their digital practices, help them to strategize your digitalization journeys and all that. No-code is like it's becoming a need for all the digital platforms or digital journey. The reason behind is that because a lot of organizations have got many more a big portfolio of legacy applications which are internal and external. While low-code applications help you to develop the applications in a very in a very faster manner, which we are going to talk about further, that how that is low-code apps helps you to implement your business ideas. So one of the slides which we are going to talk about, why you should implement your business idea with a low-code apps. So low-code apps is basically it's a development platform which has been given by most of the organizations. So we are basically been talking about Microsoft as one of the main promoters of the low-code, no-code platform. So in that situation, like it's a development platform which can be used, which has got a visual integrated platform, which has got a lot of many controls. You just have to drag and drop your controls to develop your applications. And these applications can be any kind of application. It can be a proof of concepts, which you really want to test in a very faster manner, or it can be a business application which is very internal to your employees, or it can be a front-facing applications which your customer really want to use. And one of the benefit of using low-code platforms, the application developed on these platforms are basically being compatible with all the mobile devices, web browsers, tablets. So that is where the overall low-code, no-code platform comes in. While when you develop these applications, there is a very less number of coding you have to do, and of course, it can be taken care by the citizen developers. So one of the easiest part of one of the few things which we talked about in the slide, it is a full stack is a visual development. You can actually deploy this application on a single click. So a lot of these things which we talk about, for example, that how an application needs to be deployed. What is there are a lot of challenges companies face, a lot of challenges people face when they do the deployments. Low code, no code applications can be deployed in a very faster manner. You can definitely create a lot of your solutions to increase the productivity, because within few hours or within few days you can actually create your applications, your business applications. And it is also supports the DIY kind of a do it yourself, which is basically earlier been a part of websites. So people normally use do it yourself for the websites kind of a thing. Now with low code, no code platforms, you can actually create your own applications, business applications, which you can really use to on your business side. Uh, it also create the application which is of enterprise level. So when someone says that, okay, I really want to do low code, no code platforms, create an application which is basically enterprise level applications. Yes, because that is a platform. The platform gives you the application which is highly polished, highly maintainable, scalable, and basically being taken care by, like, your business can take care of those application itself also. And end of the day, the name itself says low code, no code. That means you don't have to write any code. It's just that you have to drag and drop the controls and your application becomes ready. Why your business should adopt low code and no code apps? Basically, if you're a developer, so for example, if you're a developer, I think all of us will love that developers who has been basically can create the apps in a very faster manner. So one of the thing which is basically been very important, that how you can actually get the faster around from your developers. Low code, no code gives you that kind of a what I say leverage of doing that. End of the day, there is no limits to develop those applications. You can develop as many applications in the low code, no code, and in a very faster manner. It can be integrated with everything in this, wherever with all the business applications, because when we talk about these platform comes with the inbuilt connectors, which is one of the most, I think one of the biggest pain area for the market, is that if I already have an ERP, which is a SAP ERP, or I have Microsoft Dynamics, or I have got Excel, or I have got visual diagrams, I have got something written in the CSV files or a flat database, how should I connect that? Lot of developers, lot of development companies, or maybe a business oriented companies whose core business is not IT, they struggle to know that. While with no code, low code, you have got this, make it so easy that you can connect to these connectors. In the further slides, we will talk about that, how many connectors we are and what kind of a connectors you can connect to. The another part is that is basically create a better solutions to increase the productivity, because we already talked about that there will be a lot of enterprise level connectivities will be there. Enterprise level, enterprise level quality of products will be there with the low code, no code platforms. And there is a lot of automation happens, because when we talk about these platforms are not only gives you the coding practice, but it also gives you the automate part of it, which we are going to talk in the further slides. This is basically one of the chart which Gartner has published recently, and we have just shown that who are the players in the low code, no code kind of a thing. If you see the leaders quadrants, there are four major players. We as a Component Digital is a Microsoft certified gold part. So our focus is to take Microsoft as our platform for low code, no code, which is basically the Power Platform, which we are going to use in the further slide. We'll be talking about that, and we will be using that platform to develop our apps in 5 working days. Component Digital recommends Microsoft Power Apps because it's a leader quadrant. It has been supported by Microsoft. Azure is the base cloud platform. Lot of connectors, lot of the things, lot of integration is there with the other tools which has been supported by Microsoft itself. So and that is where the we think that Microsoft is the better candidate for any low code no code platform. I will be talking about an overview of Microsoft Power Platform here. Now, in the Power Microsoft, when you talk about low code no code, the Microsoft platform is called Power Platform. Now, the Power Platform is basically being divided into three different parts. If you see, there are three different circles we are talking about here. So one is the Power Apps, which is basically the apps which you are going to create. There are Canvas apps, there are model apps. In the future, we will talk about that. What are these Power Apps and the model apps are in the future webinars. And obviously, this is the core part of it. This is where you do the development, and it is all drag and drop kind of a thing. And these Power Apps have got connectors, which is basically 137. I think those are the connectors, which is Microsoft anyways. If you talk about SAP, you talk about any of the legacy applications, any of the COTS kind of a thing. If you really have a database in Excel or CSV or Access kind of a thing, Microsoft, you can connect with that particular file and use it like a data source. Power Automate is the workflow engine. Basically, anything which you talk about, there's a anything which you talk about Power. So there's a workflow. You can design your workflows while you talk about. So one of the thing which we talk about, like, okay, I have an approval process for any of the invoices. So I'm just taking a small example. You take any of the processes, which is like a small invoice approval process or an expense approval process. You really don't have to go out of to buy another workflow engine. Power Automate is a workflow engine which connects you to they have got inbuilt already workflows like approval workflows, date workflows. There's a lot of other workflows, and these workflows have their own connectors. You can actually store your data into Excel. You can store your data into SharePoint. You can store your data into any of the DBs like SQL, Access. All that is a part of Power Automate. Power Automate has been recently Microsoft changed the name of a MS Flow to Power Automate. Now it is called Power Automate. The third part, which is basically is the business analytics. So if I talk about Power BI, so Power BI is also another platform which Microsoft has introduced, and it's been there in the market from now quite some time, and it's one of the visualization tool which is basically being used by a lot of the organizations to do the visualization of the data. It has automatically got a AI and ML inbuilt in it, and you can use that tool as a part of your Power Platform to analyze your data. So if you see this slide, it is act, automate, and analyze. So you basically act, and then you automate that overall act, and then you analyze your data. So that is what the Power Platform is. And this Power Platform is also being backed up by data connectors, which is basically there are a lot of connectors. Then there is a inbuilt AI builder is there. You can actually use the AI builder to implement artificial intelligence into your Power Apps. And then there are common data services, like the data services is more towards if you really want to get the data from Dynamics, if you want to get the data from SAP, it automatically got those data services created for you. You just have to consume those services, and your app will start getting the data from these data sources. When to use Power Apps? Basically, when you have to integrate different components. So, for example, if you have multiple Excel files, if you have got SharePoint in your environment, Power Apps is the area which Power Apps is the application platform. You should use that. Task-oriented processes, talking about if you really have a marketing automation kind of a thing. So for example, if you think that, okay, from after one of the tasks if I do, and then after this task, I want to send mails to 10 different people or my customers, it is basically being used for that. IT system for IT departments to track assets. There's a lot of these kind of applications which Power Apps is being used for. So Power Apps is basically being used for designing a lot of business applications which are inside focus. Nowadays, marketing, the organizations are using a lot of these applications for designing to basically improving the employee engagement or to improve employee experience. And that's where the whole Power Apps platforms are coming in. Prerequisite for building a Power App. So if I talk about every user who uses Power Apps requires a Microsoft account and a license, which is one of the things because we're talking about Power Apps. It's a Microsoft. Uh, uh, it's been Microsoft platform, so you really need to have a Microsoft account and a license. There are three different basically ways to access Power Apps. So if you really have an Office 365 or Dynamic 365 license with you, you don't have to purchase anything separately. You can use Power Apps there. There are other Power Apps ways of using it, but most of the places where we have and most of our customers are using because they have Office 365 licenses and Office 365 license, and because that's where the whole Microsoft monopoly is there, I will say that way, and that's where the whole Power Apps perspective is there. So there's a lot of license. You don't have to worry about licensing part. It is an easy and more comfortable way. If you always have an Office 365, you can use Power Apps right now and start creating your business oriented apps. You can expose those apps to your employees, to your customers, and this apps can be done very easily. And as I talked about, this can be taken care by cities and developers too. In this, now further we will talk about how to create the low code apps in 5 days. So this is the slide which we are talking about. Yeah. This is a slide we will be talking about, like what we are going to do on day one, what we are going to do on day two, how we are going to do on day three and day four and five. And the below on the slide, we will talk about that. We have done a very small app. I've just taken a very small example, which is basically a visitor management app, and how we have converted from that day one. What are our outputs and how we have done for day two? What are our outputs and day three? How we have done that. So, for example, and this whole strategy which I'm talking about to you, creating an apps in 5 days, it's been also Microsoft approved strategy. It's been mentioned by Microsoft in multiple places that this is a way Power Apps you can get a lot of benefits of Power Apps if you really want to create apps in 5 days. And so this is one of the things that, like, day one you identify your challenge, so you figure it out that what I really want to create in Power Apps. Do I really want to create a very extensive, complex business applications like ERP, or a very, very small apps which can be taken care by, so small apps which can be used by my customers or by my employees. So basically you identify those kind of applications, you identify the roadblocks around it, and then you prepare a roadmap around it, that how you really want to get that done. Because when I say Power Apps, there is no way an IT can do it its own. It's a combination of IT and a business together, so that it can. That's why the whole purpose of bringing a Power Apps platform is that the business can become more empowered, and IT can support and facilitate that. So that is our day one. So you can talk about, that's the first part of our day one. And on the same day we will talk about, we will define the vision, we will define the user experience, information architectures, wireframes, and mockups. So those are the areas on day one. I think we will be doing two tasks, which is identifying your challenge, figuring it out that what you really wanted, and then the second one is envision your app. That is what is there. Now on day two, we will talk about how to, we will identify the stakeholders. So for example, who will be my app users, who will be my data users, who will be my customers, who will be using these kind of an apps. So we will identify our stakeholders, and once we identify our stakeholders, we will make sure that we design that, we include them into our conversations. And then on the day two, we will also figure it out that what is our pinpoint for your data. So we will talk about what are my data sources. So for example, or to who, what kind of a data sources I have to connect it, whether it's a SharePoint or it's an Excel. It can be SAP, it can be Access, it can be any other data sources. If you really don't have a data source connectors in Power Apps, you have all the rights to connect it with the REST services also. So you can connect it with web services, REST services, even you can get the data on the TCP/IP model also. So it's not a problem that you can connect your Power Apps to the Microsoft Outlook calendar also. So many of the customers or many of these people are using it to automate their overall Outlook bookings also. Now on the same day, if we have identified our data sources, we have identified that what kind of our data sources we will take that, and then that's what the day two will end. And then the day three and day till day five, we will be talking about how the whole development will happen. That's where the whole IT teams and the things will work out. So we will start our development on day three and we will end on development on day five. Within this 3 days, we will be doing the app development. We will be doing some level of QA testing. We will make sure that our stakeholders are involved in there, and that in day five we will be releasing and making it go live. So now, while I talked about this whole model of from day one to day five, I will also take it as an example. For example, if I talk about a visitor management app, this app is basically been and most of us have seen that. I'm just taking a very simple app, but most of us seen that when you go to meet any of the clients of yours, or in most of our offices, you find out nowadays there's a visitor app. You actually enter your details and the overall uh, 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 kind of name clips comes out from there. So that's what we have created, a very small app. While the intent is to show this example to figure out what you have to do on day one, day two, and how you are going to do your day three to day five. So now manual tracking of the visitor was one of our area of concern. So that was a challenge we identified. We figured out this unknown contact person comes in, so we don't know to whom you are talking about and where you are coming in. So we really want to make sure that whosoever the visitor is coming, there is someone who is been he's definitely coming for a contact to talk to someone, but then we really want to record that. We talk about describe the contact details, person details, prepare the wireframe of the visitor app on the same day, and define the UI UX. So how the UI UX will look at, because it's a power app, it's a low code no code platform. It does not give you a lot of flexibility to make an applications like the way other mobile applications or web applications is there, because the intent is not to make the applications which is highly rich on the UI side, but the intent is to make the application faster and solve the problem. So defining a UI UX is a very important part. How to use the Power Apps and define the best UI UX. That is what the overall aim of ours. Now, on the day two, we define that who will be our overall stakeholder. So we talk about employee, we talk about security, we talk about visitor. While employee is the one who will be the contact will be, visitor is the person who came in, and the security is like someone who is on the security of your, so it can be a reception or it can be on somewhere on the outside of the building. So those kind of a people, so those are the stakeholders who will be there and using this app. Now we talked about what kind of data we have to capture. So we will capture the facial data, email ID, the contact person, name, address, phone numbers, connect with the SharePoint database. In this case, we have used SharePoint because Microsoft implicit gives you the access of the SharePoint, and we use SharePoint as our own complete databases. So we use SharePoint for storing all our visitor details and the list of the visitors. So that's what we have identified on day two. On day From day three to day five, all our team came together. Like one of my business analysts who has documented this whole thing, the person who is using it, the person we also interviewed one of the visitors. We brought one of the Power Apps expert. All of these three or four people came together and started the development of these applications. So we once we develop this application, it's very fast because you don't have to follow a very different release cycle. It is not that, oh, you have to do a very big releases. It's like you make a changes, it's automatically get changed, and it's while you are using this app on the iPad, it will automatically give you the notification that the mobile version or the app version has been changed. Please update it. So you automatically update it. Automatically updates, push the all the changes automatically. So that's what is happen. So we don't have to put a lot of our effort and time to deploy these applications. Once this application has been tested properly, we push this application on the production, and once the production, anyone in the office who has got an Office 365 access, got a user ID, password of Office 365 accounts, can use these applications. You just have to go onto your mobile, download the Power Apps as an app. Once you download the Power Apps, your admin can give you the access of these applications, and automatically these applications will get downloaded, and you can use that. Now, on a day one, we also talked about these are the details of our day one. So we identified the challenges, envision your app. So first phase set the scope and direction for planning by identifying challenges and defining success at a high level. Once the business challenge is identified, the relevant process should be chosen for implementing the application. So I'm just talking about the detail of the of all the day ones now. While on the first slide we talk about that what is our uh, overall journey from day one to day five. But from day one, this is where we are, and then you envision your app. So that's where the whole UI UX design, information architecture, wireframe, mockups team comes in picture, and having a very clear vision to identify what kind of a functionalities you really want in your app, because that is a time when you will be you really need it, because our intention is to get very a very rapid development of these apps and put it on the production and start using it. Nowadays most of the organizations are using Power Apps for the POC kind of it. So if you have an idea, you really want to test it, use it, use the Power Apps, develop that idea, test it. If everything goes fine, just keep improving that idea and keep adding features into the Power Apps. Day two, we talked about we will be identifying your stakeholders. So you have to identify different stakeholders. So Compile identified the stakeholders. We also identified the data related to those the apps, and that's our start of day two. Day three, we talked about day two, and we will be doing pinpoint of the data. We figure it out what are the data we are going to use it. In our case, the data was, as I talked about, it will be a SharePoint which will be got stored, while the data there were initially we have imported a lot of Excel data also. So there was an Excel which was used as a data sources, because earlier when this app was not there, we were using Excel to get the overall visitor information. Our security was doing that. After that, once we get this application done, we use Excel as our data sources, and then imported all that data into our visitor app. Day three, we talked about road mapping. So strategy roadmap is detailed and include concrete milestones, actions, and all steps to reach the final product. And at the final roadmap is a blueprint to interactive visual strategy, which will lead to development. Day four, we talked about development. So we will be doing all actual developments. We are making our hands dirty and doing the development overall. So it's more about drag and drop kind of a thing. And we create the whole interface and application which is running, which can be done within 8 hours, which is I think it's a good amount of time to develop any Power App. And in day five, we tested our application. While the application was fine, there were small changes, small validation, which was anyways required when you make anything live, and there are a lot of feedbacks comes in. So we got a good amount of time, like 8 hours, to get the feedbacks, to implement it rapidly and make it a live application. So that is what was our aim. So it's like day one to day five journey, where we have made this application live. Some of the success stories talking about these are the success stories which Power Apps has got it. It's not the success stories of ours, but it's the stories which Power Apps has got it. So if you talk about IPS, which is Integrated Power Services, IPS has been seen estimate 15% uptick in productivity implementing the Power App solution. So for example, if you give your employees a lot of these internal applications like an expense or maybe a meeting booking or a visitor apps or something on those lines, so those kind of applications can help your employee productivity. So they don't have to put a lot of effort in doing other operational tasks, and you can actually develop these apps very faster. And as I talked about, these apps do not need a lot of maintenance, a lot of management. It's very easy. You just have to go onto the platform, provide the access to them, and they can start using it right away. Pepsi has started using it for store audit app. The app saved the organization about 500K in just first year. Much of the saving comes from McKinsey team being able to avoid outsourcing another vendor's merchandise app at the cost of 240 for the first year. Belron is another company. Toyota has been started using Power Apps. Heathrow has been one of the case studies which Microsoft has recently published. Virgin Atlantic, which is using Power Apps for developing their whole portal. So that is not mentioned here, but Microsoft is Virgin Atlantic is using Power Apps for doing their portal also. So that is another success story of Power Apps. So there's a lot of Power Apps there's a lot of Power Apps strategies are there in the market, success stories are there in the market, which companies are using, and they are using it for developing their business-oriented apps. Now, coming to the continuous learning with Competent Digital, in the next webinar, we are planning to do lot of deep dive into the apps, how we going to create the Power App. Our intent is to show you and it's kind of hands-on lab where we'll be showing you that, okay, how we are going to create a Power Apps in 5 days, while the process will be fast and forward, but our intent is that we will be showing you how to develop a Power App, a visitor application Power App using the Power Platform. While the other list which we are talking here, types of apps built by us, these are the apps which we have built by us, like a visitor management app, work from home app, hardware requisition app, exit interview app, seat booking app, help desk for all departments. We have used Power Bots. Recently, Microsoft, the Power Platform has also got a Power Virtual Bot, which has been used as a bot where you can integrate this bot with other areas, with other data services, or you can use this bot to generate a lot of Power BI reports. This bot can also, and you can use all the feature of Power Apps. You can use Power Apps, you can use Power Automate, you can use Power BI. So you have all these features which you can utilize and can develop your Power Bots. So that is another feature which has been recently came into, and this is basically a chatbot. So recently we have created our own help desk using a Power Bots. Now the Power Bots has been responsible for providing the details. Lot of queries get answered automatically by the Power Bot itself. And again, trust me, this Power Bots is been automatic. It's a lot of these things is already been configured. You just have to configure the intents. You just have to configure the topics inside it and the flows, and automatically the Power Bot starts working. And you can integrate these Power Bots with any of your applications too. So that is what is overall with the Power Bots coming in. Um, I think the next part of our would be like questions.
Thanks, Vishal. That was really exhaustive information on Power Platforms. And I think every one of us would be very keen to understand and learn more on how we can do a deep dive with hands on experience in actually creating one of those bots. So I would suggest everyone to keep a lookout on our next mail to understand and learn more about how we can do that with an hands on for the application. I would like to open the platform now for further questions. Please go ahead and share if you have any questions right now. All right, so I think we have one question. I'll ask Vishal to please take that.
Yeah, yeah. One of the question which I got is that what are the OS requirement that will be needed to run Power Apps on mobile and tablet? So Power Apps supports a wide variety of device platforms and browser. The best experience, Microsoft has given some guidelines to use Power Apps on the devices. For example, Android 7, something on those lines, Microsoft Edge as a browser, iOS version 10. Some of these guidelines which Microsoft has given, if you use that, the Power Apps will work best in that. But there is no limitation as such. We haven't tested this application on a very legacy devices, but mostly it runs very fine. And as mentioned that any of these platforms or any of these devices, you don't need to do anything specifically done for in the Power Apps. It's automatic. Any application you're going to create will create automatically on Android, on iOS, and it will run on the browser itself. So you don't have to spend time to develop 3 or 4 different interfaces or versions. So that is one of the best part of using Power Apps. How difficult is to connect with SharePoint? Uh, Portal, of course, Power Apps is being an implicit connector is there on the SharePoint portal. You don't have to worry on the you don't have to be worry on the connectors, because SharePoint is the by default connector for Power Apps. Most of the data which you actually been come from the Power Apps, or whatever the data is transactional, it is get stored into the SharePoint. Of course, one of the things which we really want to talk about, that yeah, SharePoint is good for storing the uh, small to medium amount of data, but for a large amount of data, our recommendation is that it should not store on the SharePoint. It's better to store it on the Excel or on the SQL Server kind of a thing. Yeah, one question I recently got it: can it be shared publicly? I understand till now it is made for within the organization. Yes, it cannot be shared publicly. It is within the organization. You're right. Microsoft is working on something called Power Portal, which is being used for sharing the app. I think there was a plan to deliver it. It's still in the process, but yeah, Microsoft knows about it. But one of the things which we have tested, that if you are on one of the Office 365 tenant, and and the place where you really want to, or the person you really want to share with, he is on the other tenant of Office 365, you can easily share that. So that sharing is possible till the time your administrators give the right to share the outside application. So yeah, it is not publicly available. That's a correct. Uh, what are the licensing requirement for use of SQL Server as a DB backend? I think the licensing requirement will remain same the way it is for any other thing. SQL Server licensing of Microsoft is work differently. It does not make any difference for it does not make any difference whether you use it with Power Apps or not, because if you're using it for multiple, you really need to have a CAL licenses. So that licensing policy of SQL will remain same for Power Apps also. So one of the question I really now got it, like how complex of a DBA these apps accesses. It's There is no DB behind it. It is just done on the automatically on the what I say. It's been taken care by the Azure cloud itself. So Office 365, where you are the tenant. So the tenant, so it is basically it is been basically maintained by the Active Directory. So Azure. So when I say Office 365 ID, you automatically get your logins or your overall user access done on the Active Directory, and you have to be on one tenant to use the application. So if you are on a Office 365 and an Active Directory is there, so you don't have to worry. You can give access to anyone, and then those access and then the apps can be accessed by anyone. That's what I've understood with this question. Does Power Apps license? I don't think so that Power Apps. No, it should not be. There is no what I say. There is no levels of Power Apps licenses. It is one level of there's only one license which the Power Apps. You have to have a licenses on the Office 365 side. So whatever you license you talk about, but if you have a license which is for the which allows you to do the power platform, then you can access it. So there is no different license you have to buy of Power Apps to access the SQL Server. So one of the question I got it, can the Power Apps be a scalable app? Of course, it is basically Power Platform is developed on the serverless architecture. There is no server behind, it's just like a service. So whatever how many users comes it does not matter. It will scale automatically. So you don't have to even worry about that. Oh, my application is not scalable. Is it? And end of the day, it is also fault tolerance. If it is even crash, it gets automatically on. It does not get. So there's a lot of benefits which I see as a Power Apps. You don't have to worry about the legacy problems which any other legacy applications or any other custom build applications have got it like you and that is where the whole Power Apps platform comes in because the platform itself takes care of all these parts.
Let's see if we have any other questions. Feel free to send in your questions, and Vishal is going to take.
One of the questions came is, can a custom source be added, like a custom data source? This is what I've understood from this question. Definitely, you can add a custom data source, and I talked about that. There's a multiple ways. Like one is that you already have these data connectors already built in, like Excel, PowerPoint. Even you talk about SharePoint list, SQL Server, local databases. You can add that. While custom sources can also be added. There is a mechanism you can actually add that as custom source, and you can use that as your data sources. So that is what is there as a part of in the Power Apps. And we already talked about that you can connect with any of the REST APIs or any kind of services, web services you can add, and you can use that as a data sources. So that is one of the good part of Power Apps where you already have a designed APIs in your environment which you really want to use it to maybe authenticate or authorize uh, few of your functions. You can use those APIs in Power Apps directly. Most of the companies I have seen that they already have their user bases and they already have these kind of security implementation on their. They have rights implementation. Authorization is done from one of the services they have. So you can use Power Apps. You can use the APIs of those applications, consume them into Power Apps, and you can actually run it. So you can control your application on enterprise level also. Do you have uh, are there any more competitors of Power Apps platforms in the market? Definitely there are. It's not that Microsoft is the only one who have created this platform, but yeah, the most reliable partners and the most reliable partner Microsoft has been because end of the day, it being supported by Microsoft, it has got an Azure platform. While rest of the platforms which rest of the tools or rest of the platform which we're talking about, like OutSystems, Mentis, I've shown you that slide. There were three more leaders, excluding Microsoft. Those three leaders are not being backed up by any cloud platform. These are their independent players and they do this. So while Power Platforms, when we talk about it, has been backed by Microsoft, it has been total connectivity. It's automatically give you a lot of cloud thrust, which is automatically the part of Power Platform, serverless architectures and all that. And end of the day, it is platform independent. You can run it on any devices. A lot of the benefits of Power Platform is there. So yes, I will say that competitors are there, but Microsoft stands separately, differently, and they are improving on it. They are bringing a lot many things. Recently, they brought Power Bots. They have also brought, which is basically been Power Bots. You can do an RPA inside it, robotic process automation as a part of it. So a lot of these things Microsoft is bringing in, and there's a good role for Power Platform to be developed. So understand, and our recommendation is that Microsoft, you should continue with Microsoft.
All right. Do we have any other questions here? I think. Please feel free to share your questions over to us, and we will reply and get back to you with all the details that you need. Thanks, Vishal, for taking all these questions and giving us your time. Please stay in touch. We'll be getting back to you again for a deep dive and a demo on how to create Power Apps. Thank you guys for joining in this webinar. I really appreciate. Please look out for an email soon. Thanks everyone. Have a nice day.